to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that my guests and I are always excited that you join us weekly. Now, as you listen to the show, I know, guys, when we hear that word change, right? Something, we get that pit in our stomach, like, oh, here we go again. If we choose change, I think it's a little bit easier than when change is thrust upon us. But no matter where you are on change in your life, trust me, I've got your back. And for me, I have learned that whenever change happens, communication becomes the true core to be able to navigate that change with a little bit more ease and grace. So in the show notes, you will see my communication style assessment. It's kind of important because you'll get two reports. The highest score that you'll earn, everybody is different, but the highest score you earn is your natural communication superpowers. Important to know how your message kind of authentically lands. Flip side, your lowest score, that's where I find most people have a blind spot. More important for you to dig in on that one, because how is your message landing with those that communicate 180 degrees different than you? Yikes. So pay attention to that one. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes for you. That is my gift to you. Now, the quote to set the stage for my guests and my conversation is by Vivien Kellems. And Vivien says, "Of course, I'm a publicity hound. Aren't all crusaders? How can you accomplish anything unless people know what you're trying to do?" So publicity gets us noticed and really does help us build an innovative brand that people learn to really respect and hopefully trust us. Strategies exist to help us grow our brand and be noticed in our markets. Now, business capital is one of those strategies. So business capital is power at the end of the day for business owners. Now, you can't do business without it. So who is my wonderful guest today that we're going to dig in and talk about this? Because I'm going to tell you, this is not my zone of genius, but it is hers. And she's a dear friend and just a brilliant business owner. Her name is Shannon Procise. Now, Shannon is the go-to guide for visionaries seeking to create community and cultivate raving fans. Shannon's the founder of the Business Acceleration Network, a trailblazing community for conscious business owners who are here to make an impact. So please help me welcome my good friend Shannon to the show. Shannon, thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. Oh my goodness, Connie, I took your assessment and I love it. And real quick, I just want to say what a gift you give people to learn how to navigate change, right? And to have those tools, because change happens no matter what. And we're not taught how to do it in school. So.
And right, what are the things we know is going to happen in life? Change. And we really are ill-equipped. So these, like what you do helps, what I do helps. We have to learn. I believe that everybody's different too, Shen. And that's why I like being part of your community, because I said, notice how I'm taking credit, right?
Yes, you're a power partner. You're one of our leaders. So yes.
But in that community, right, we really navigate change and talk about what's going on. What are you struggling with? How can I help? Does anybody have experience with? And being with like-minded people who understand and want to help just makes life so much easier, I find. So these tools that we can share, I think are truly helpful. So yeah, and your zone of genius is so different than mine. And I love embracing people like that, because that's how we learn and grow, right? And if that change happens to me. So this is important. This is an important topic for business owners, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's my first question. What the heck got you started in marketing, and maybe even more important, that in the public relations realm?
Well, I have produced over 600 events, and my first event, I didn't have a marketing budget. Didn't come from a corporate background where they have a budget to go ahead and get out there in the world.
Yeah.
And as we were producing the events, we kept saying, this is such a vital event for the community. How do we get more? So I really started diving in, what is free publicity and how do we attract it, on the limited budget, and ended up cracking the code, wrote a press release, not the AP style, a completely different style. And with one press release and multiple local media picking it up, we went from 500 attendees to 2,000 attendees. So I just said, we all have this incredible message to get out to the world. I started looking at people in my industry where they're good at what they're doing, but most people don't know how to market themselves.
I hire, I hire people because that, like, I'm sales, I'm not marketing. They're married, they need each other, but they're very, very different skill sets. So yeah, I love that. Um, so you mentioned free publicity. Can anybody get free publicity?
That is such a good question. Anybody can. That was like a myth in the beginning because I thought, oh, it has to be a nonprofit or
Yeah.
it has to, you have to have news that's going on in the world, which is all good, right? Those are things that are kind of like a check mark of being more attractive. But we all have education pieces that we can share. Like you go in and you help people navigate change, deal with sales and attract more revenue. I'm sure, Connie, you could probably write 100 articles, right, or more, and those are things that the media and publications love to hear. It's just one of them. The other is we're doing things that make a difference in the world. So I call it community give back. That's another incredible way of having the story picked up. And then the third one that I love is human interest. We've all had a challenge and we've had to overcome it.
Yeah.
We've seen Aaron Brockovich and Seabiscuit and all of these movies, right? They've taken human interests and turn them into movies. Well, it's the same thing with the media. They love hearing how people have overcome challenges and what they did to do that.
Are there places to go to find these, like you just described, those three: human interest, right? Writing articles that have good content or quality content. How do you find places to put these things, right? Because everybody's thinking, oh my God, I have so much content. How do I know where to put it? Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that's a great story, great question. So first off, if people are doing it themselves, I always say start local. Find within the first couple of hours, and some people are out of a big city, find somewhere local. And I believe your media list is as important as your contact list. So start looking at where is the local radio, TV, magazines. I love looking also at where are fundraisers in your area and what media did they use. A lot of times they'll have media sponsors and things like that. So start building that media list locally, and that can become your biggest advocate. You can also now, especially with ChatGTP, I have a media list of thousands of people that I've had to work really hard to build, but you can go to AI and ask them what are local media networks, TV, radio, and don't forget the smaller publications. A lot of the smaller publications are really community-based and looking for that good news. Now, if you're looking for a more national footprint, again, it's the same thing. You look for trade magazines.
Yeah.
So, like if you're doing sales or whatever it is, try to find those industry magazines and start that media list. And then when COVID happened, I had to do a pivot. Guess what was getting all the news, right? It was
COVID.
yes. And so I ended up finding a partner where we do a syndication, and we actually guarantee getting people in Business Insider, Fox, ABC. And so with a small fee, we do the syndication and actually get people picked up. So there's a few ways, but homegrown is start local, and find your industry networks, podcasts, and things like that too.
So like banking, right? That's my niche. You know that, right? The financial service industry. So if I found publications,
Yes.
that would be a good source of media for me to get we were just talking about that, getting my name out across the country with the banks, right? So that would be a good place to start, for example.
Yes. And so what you would do would be a little different than a press release. You would write an article.
Mhm.
And so when you submit an article, it's good to look at what is some maybe news that they might be missing, what's some education piece that might be essential. It's really important both in press releases and articles that you don't sell.
Mm.
So you got to remember no selling. You know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your education is going to sell yourself, and just include that little bio and a gift like you're doing. And those are great things to get involved. They love articles that are educating and inspiring and things like that.
I love it. I love it. Now you mentioned press kits. So what are the essentials? And I think you have 5 essentials of a press kit, right? So what are they? Everybody get out pen and paper because trust me, you want to take notes on this.
Yeah, so with the press kit, you want to have action photos. So I learned this the hard way. I remember writing a story, and it was I sent it in and they said, "Hey, do you have any photos?" And I sent them a headshot, and they ended up not. They printed the article but no pictures. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I?
Am I ugly?
Am I ugly? But then I started really, again, diving in and looking at media, and they love action photos. Then the next article I submitted, I was literally, Connie, standing next to somebody, opening up a brochure, pointing, and they gave it a quarter page of the newspaper with
My
the article.
God.
So action photos are really essential. And now with phones and stuff, we can go get them right away, immediately. You can include a headshot, but definitely include action photos. The other thing to be prepared is having what we call an expert power bio. So having your bio that shares who you are, why you're an expert, why they should listen to you, who you've worked with, where you've been seen before. Having that bio ready is essential. And I love, I suggest having the larger bio, something you might put on a website, and you can pull out the smaller ones that you would send into the media. Also, I consider marketing, you're going to think I'm a little strange, but I consider events and speaking marketing too. So the reason is you can get in front of a big platform. You can potentially speak, like right now, or even podcasts. These are a form of getting out there in the world. So some of them want to see your order form. It's really good to know what you offer and what you have. So just having that prepared can not only help you increase sales, right? You got to be ready to receive, but they may say, let us see what are your offerings, and to have that available is key. Any former media that you've been in, if you have a speaker reel or an interview, especially if you're getting on TV or podcast, to include those, they can hear you. They know you can articulate. They know you're going to present and speak well. If you've been in, like I've been in Business Insider, you can include, check out our recent article in Business Insider. So you always want to keep those, Connie, even on your website. Like we have in the buzz or in the media, that adds that credibility, and it attracts more media for you. Now you may not have it. We all start somewhere, right, Connie? So if you don't have it, it's okay. Just start building that piece. The other one is the press release has to be ready. So you don't want to call them and say, "Hey, I've got this great story," and then they say send something over and you're not ready. So making sure that you have the press release in place.
And you help people with all of these pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Yes. What I love is a lot of people can write. I mean, you can go to AI and write press releases right now. But what makes what we do so special is we also work with businesses. So we develop the strategy of conversion with the press release.
Yeah.
And we really look at what's the key points that are going to get create the tagline that sizzles, and how do we get it to convert into sales? Because it's one thing to get it picked up, but it's another thing to get it to click and buy and take action, but still not advertising, right? It's a very fine dance.
Yeah, it is. It's a fine line for sure. But people need help with this, Shannon. I know because I did everything analog prior to COVID, talk about COVID pivoting hard. And all of a sudden I had to create a digital platform. Like I use Kajabi as my learning platform. Kajabi. Somebody said that, I go, Kawa? Like, what are you people talking about? I felt like I was learning another language when it came to this realm. Another interesting thing, and it was prior to meeting you, but somebody said to me, "Oh, you have to have," it was one of the lessons, right? You have to have a speaker's reel. Have you spoken before? And I did everything live. And I go, yeah, I have a ton of video of me. And they go, well, put it into a speaker reel. Well, how do you do that? So I had to hire someone to create. Well, I have a 2-minute speaker reel, and I'm going to share a story. This is how important this is. If what Shannon is saying is getting your juices thinking, uh-oh, am I missing this piece? I'm going to share with you. I was asked to speak at an event, and it was a big event for banks. And but I had to pay my own way because I was an unknown factor. So, which I was fine with. I don't mind. But I thought, reach out to this dude. So I said, listen, I know you don't know me. I know you've never seen me present. I have a podcast. Here's the links. You can hear, you get my vibe. So, but more important, I have a 2-minute speaker reel so you could see how I present live, right, in a live setting. And again, a 2-minute. And I said, I'm just looking either to, have you pay for me or share. And I said, and no pressure either way, because I'm not a pressure person. He looked at it within a day, got back to me. He goes, yeah, we'll pay your way. I love it. Great. So number one, you don't ask, you ain't going to get, right? Like what's Gretzky's, if you don't take the shot, right, you're never going to make the goal. And he says it more eloquently than I do, but you know what I'm talking about, right, Shan?
Yes.
But by asking, but I had something, it was a link, boom, that I was able to send to him so that he could see me live speaking. It was different venues that I had spoken at. So these are important things to have, because telling someone or someone meeting you and thinking, oh, Connie's great energy, but then seeing you in front of an audience and how you engage with an audience versus one-on-one, there's a big difference to that.
Yeah, it's the same thing with raising capital. You mentioned capital. It's one of the things that
Yeah.
we love helping people,
Yeah.
whether it be through sponsorship or, the SEC route or royalty route. And I've found that people that are raising capital, they struggle until they get the video that tells the story and people can actually see it. It's, better than any long email, me trying to communicate with a pitch deck. That we call them capital videos. Videos are such a powerful tool. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's being ready, right? It's all about being ready.
Yeah. Stay with me on raising capital for a minute. Is it important on the business objective or goals, or does it depend on the business? Like, who should be looking to, now that they're like, somebody's listening going, oh, capital, I never thought of that, or oh, capital, I've been thinking about that. How do you know if you need it, and how do you know how to approach it? You know what I mean?
So if I think everybody can raise capital, and I'll share a couple stories with that.
Yes, that'd be great.
And ideally, but well, let me just share the first story is when I did my book Media Magic. I thought, okay, I can pay for it, or I can raise a little capital, bring in people to partner with me to fund it. So there could be things that we may have the resources to do. I mean, look at some of the most wealthy people in the world, and they talk about this in the book Think and Grow Rich. Using other people's money is a really powerful tool. So if you are okay with collaborating with other people, and there's ways of doing it so you don't have to give up ownership, you don't have to get into debt. There's lots of ways of raising and attracting capital. You can do it. The other thing is, if you have goals and dreams and aspirations, whether it's something in technology or even marketing, right? Like for me, I part of why I wanted that capital for the book was I wanted to be able to market it in a big way, right? So it was like to be able to use that extra funding and bring people in on the initiative to ride the skirt tails of all that we were doing. People were happy to contribute financially and help fund the project.
Do you have a protocol or like how to do that? Like, because what you just described makes perfect sense. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, but I'm not giving up ownership. What's the reward for them on the back end? Why would they want to do business with me, right? Give me their money. What do they get on the back end if I'm not giving them a percentage of the business?
Yeah, so there's so many ways to do it. One of my favorite, well, let me just finish the book piece. So what I did was I said that I would share with them people that purchased the book. I would share with them all of the marketing. And so there was really things that added value to their business as a marketing. They kind of wrote it off as a part of their marketing to get out to a new audience.
Love it.
Right.
Sure.
Another instrument that we use, we call it the Relationship Royalty Sharing Covenant. And so this is one where you bring people in either as a sponsor or member. And so you determine what is an exchange, right? What are things that I could give them? I could give them a link on the website, or I could have them attend an event. I mean, we have to really, everybody's unique, just throwing
Yeah.
out. And then from there, they get an exchange of items, but then you do a royalty sharing, a revenue sharing off of when you reach benchmarks. So there's so many ways to structure it. It depends on what it is. And usually when I sit down with people, we first look at what do you have, right? What's your website? What are you offering? Where are the places that we could easily involve somebody else that you choose, right? Because you don't want to align with somebody that that isn't going to add value to it. And then usually it's pretty easy to come up with the footprint of what's the exchange that people feel good about.
Do people do this with podcasts to get sponsors, or not that we need capital for a podcast because it's not super expensive to run. It's more time than money. But does that work for podcasts getting sponsors too? Because I know I have a lot of podcasters that listen to me too.
Yeah, so you can do sponsors, or you can also just raise straight capital. You know, there's many ways to do it. So definitely with that, you want to, it's kind of like putting together a business plan. You need to be able to show them the demographics of who they're going to meet with. You need to show them the marketing plan. A lot of this you can do on a business canvas, just something of a bird's eye view of here's the marketplace, here's what we have in the marketplace, here's who we're impacting, here's the revenue, here's what we sell. And absolutely, I know a couple who has a very large post-production podcast network. They went the normal route of raising capital and bringing in investors to share in it, and they, you know, give them a piece of the pie when they reach certain benchmarks. So there's a lot of ways to fund a podcast.
Yeah, and this is the thing. We don't know what we don't know, right? Like I started in this before with your lowest score is a blind spot. You don't even know what questions to ask to say, how could I get better at? Because you don't even know that there's a deficit, right? So these questions about capital, if you're kind of like, you're being curious, it's a tap on the shoulder almost. I'm going to give Shannon's information at the end, but just let me just share. Worth having a conversation if this is something you're thinking about, and or the media kit we're talking about. We're not at the end of the show yet, but I'm just thinking, Shannon, because you're again, I'm part of the community and I love what you share and how you just give so much value every time we get together for different networking events. And we meet quite frequently, not a burden. And I'm not saying that it's too many times, because if you can't make it, you can't make it. They have the videos. But I'm pretty committed here. I try to show up for everyone because I find so much value, Shannon, when you guys talk about the capital. I'm like, I never needed capital. I never thought about that. That wasn't part of my strategy. But as I learn, you start thinking, well, should it be one of my strategies? And you and I have had one-on-one meetings where you've gone through stuff with me, and I'm like, oh, I do this. And you're like, yeah, you don't need that. So you're very, you ask the right questions, because I don't know what to tell you I have or don't have, because I don't know what you're looking for from your lens, right? I know from my lens. And after we went through, you were like, okay, yeah, you don't really need me right now if anything changes. And the other thing I will say that I love being part of this community, Shannon, I'm doing a little brag on her right now, because listen, I really pay it forward, Shannon. And when I find a group of people or a resource, I'm yelling it from the rooftops, because I think, well, if I needed this, I bet there's other people, right, that can use this resource. So the reason I do show up, I'm pretty good. If I miss one or two, the one time I was sick, I'm like, I think I could come on. You're like, will you please not come and be taking care of yourself? Because I want to always support you. But my point is, I always learn, I always meet great people, or you'll answer a question that I was thinking about, synchronicity, or you'll say something and then I'll reach out and say, Shannon, what was that about? Like, I feel like I'm missing something. And Shannon will be like, yeah, you don't need that. Or, oh yeah, we should talk about that. So again, that resource of information without that pushiness. It's never about selling, it's about sharing. And I've been in way too many networking groups where what can you do for me versus, hey, let's share each other's zone of genius. So I just wanted to do that brag on real quick, because everything you're saying, people are salivating right now saying, oh, capital, do I need it? If you're not sure, have a conversation. That's where I always go. We have blind spots. You need to scratch the itch. And I trust you, obviously, Shen. So you would say, like you've done with me, you don't need that. You're already doing this. That's working for you. So it's strategic. And the other thing you said before, it depends on the person and the business in front of you. And you have such a vast diversity of clients you work with. I feel like you've seen it all. You always have a story. And I think, how did she find that person? It's fascinating, the number of people in these diverse industries that you get to meet with. And then you do these great shares, because you never know who's going to need who at any given time. my next question, Shen, where, because you deal with so many business owners.
I just wanted
Go
to
ahead.
add
Yeah, go ahead. Share.
about the sponsorship for you. And anybody that's listening, just add interested in being a sponsor, reach out on your podcast page. Because most of the sponsorship in that realm, a lot of times we customize it to their need, but it starts with that conversation. So just adding that, you don't have to have it all together, right? The first call, as you know, doing sales is, what are you looking for? Tell me about your business. Let me get back with you and see what we can fit. You'll be amazed just by having interested in being a show sponsor, what will happen. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, now see everybody. I just learned something. I love to learn, Shen. I don't have that on my podcast because, but here's the irony of it, right? This one is my business podcast, but we're very spiritually inclined, right? We are very like-minded, you and I. It's about giving first. Like, we believe that in our soul and we live and breathe that, and it's obvious, right? My other one, changing the sales game, that's really like hardcore sales. That's really what we talk about. We should have you on that show too, because I think there's benefit. I have different listeners. I think we need to do another show. Talking out loud here, guys. You're seeing Connie's brain blast happen live, okay? But I think that would be helpful. But when I'm thinking on that one, there's sales people, there's sales specialists, there's sales publishing books, whatever it is about sales. So that's such an easy thing to add because the platform of the people tuning into that, it's not just different industries. It really is sales professionals. So you and I have to talk about that on the side, but I will add that. Thank you for that tip. See, I'm going to make money off Shannon just from that tip, people.
Yes. Oh.
Where do you see, with all again, you're in so many different industries helping people, where do you see business owners get stuck?
They get stuck in, the word that's coming up for me is in various ways of not being authentic with their challenge. So the challenge could be they don't know how to market. They're not converting their sales. They're having challenges with their team. Their team might be not reading emails or giving them pushback, or they're micromanaging. Each business has a different challenge. And what happens, where I think is an overall umbrella, is that they go at it alone. When they have mentors or they have other people, they may not be authentic. It's like, we want to keep this facade of everything's okay, I've got it together. And I think that it's really important to find a community, find a place where you can say, hey, I'm trying to navigate this. Who do you know that can help me, or what do you think? And it's that authenticity and that asking for help, because in all the different industries, everybody has a challenge. That's just blanket,
100%.
but they're very, very different. And some of them, they need to strengthen their financial muscle. A lot of women are getting on the bandwagon of learning numbers, but a lot of women that I know, it's like they don't know how to read a P&L, and they're following their vision and their dream, which is incredible. But as you know, Connie, numbers create stories, budgets create outcomes. I mean, they're one of the most important things. So identifying where we have those challenges, getting help, and just working on strengthening that muscle of where we want to grow. I hope that was an okay answer. It was kind of a more general.
No, it is, because I think that we try to hide, like, I'm the business owner, I should know everything. And COVID, I always go back to that. I did everything live, Shannon, and all of a sudden it's like, I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to go. We didn't know anything about COVID. Remember, now that we have so much more information 5 years later or 4 years later. So back then it was like, holy crap, I don't know anything about digital. I don't know these learning platforms. I don't have any video library of my stuff. I did everything live, other than my speaking events I had recorded. I didn't record my classes. So you have all of these. I didn't even know what questions to ask. And I just became very vulnerable. Anytime I was with people, I'm like, you said this, can you tell me what that means? I don't know what that means. And here's the thing I really have found. be careful. There's a lot of shysters out there. Okay. That's why when I vet people, I share away because I know they're the real deal. They're fairly priced, right? If I've used them, I know that they're fairly priced, but they deliver on the back end because just like you, I'm sure over these past 4 years, the amount of money I have spent and I haven't gotten what I thought I was going to get is very disappointing. But you'll learn from it and you learn what questions to ask as you go forward. But I agree. I think being authentic and letting people know what you're have the perfect, and it could be a simple answer. Like I remember when someone said, oh, there's different platforms, and they said, I just investigated this and I chose Kajabi because blah, blah, blah. And they told me, and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I'm looking to do. And they said, look at these other ones, don't just buy because I said so, but the price point was right. This is the, and I went and I thought, oh, they were right. This has everything I need. So again, you never know who's going to have the answer for you. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on with your group, the community, that the Business Accelerated Community, the band, the group, every time we network, one of the questions is always, you do love seat. We don't call it hot seat. We call it the love seat coaching. And we put in how much help do you need, right? Shannon's very fair and says, score it on a 1 to 5. Because like if I have a question and it's a 1, I'm like, I'll email her later. It's not a big deal. I don't want to take up the group's time. There's people that are really in the throes of creating something. And they're like, do I do this? Do I do this? Or do I do this? So as a team, we keep it very, Shannon's very controlled. That's another thing I like about you, by the way. Sometimes they let runaway trains, you control it. But we get to share our own experiences. So for me with the sales, or Shannon will say, that's a sales issue. Con, can you weigh in on this? What do you think? Or can you guys meet if you think there's resources you can share? So we're always connecting dots and trying to protect each other's blind spots. But I think being authentic and honest with what your blind spots are really critical. Isn't that funny that we try to hide? We're all struggling with something, right, Shan?
Yeah, well, it's that balance, it's that balance of, and I've worked through this, but I know when I first found out the power of authenticity, I thought I won't attract money if people know that I'm struggling with this issue. So it was like I just had this thing, if clients knew or if people knew, then they're not going to feel safe to send me business.
Yeah.
So, but then I learned that when I'm authentic and truthful, that people, there's a bond that happens. There's a relationship that happens. There's a, with the right people. I'm glad that you brought that up. But most of the time, people's connect at the heart level, and then they want to help you. And then it's like you're in it together. You move from a silo to a community. And the thing that I just wanted to add that makes our community unique is because we have so many people that come together. I may think it's a sales thing, but you may say, hey, there's sales, but they also need to consider this.
That's right.
It's more of a holistic picture of what's happening, really with resolving and accelerating the progress.
Yeah, it's all about acceleration. And that's, we go to these networking events and this happened to me too. That's why I became very, very discerning on where I spend my time. Because I leave and I'm like, yeah, they're nice people, but like there's not depth there, or they're not my people, or God, they're just starting out and I'm more advanced than that. That's not a put down in any way. It just wasn't serving me. So my time is valuable just like everybody else. So you have to really, I met my husband when I was 30, Shannon. So I always tease him and I go, we're married 32 years now. So I always tease him. I go, I had to kiss a lot of frogs to find my prince. I feel it's the same way with networking. Like you got to kind of kiss a lot of frogs, but then you really, if you do it with a discerning eye, I find that you do find your people. And somebody introduced us, and one conversation, you invited me to join the community and said, just test us out and see. And I came to a couple and I said, this is where I need to be. And it's well over a year that you and I have been together. So I'm loving that. One last thing. I know you have a gift for my peeps. So can you just share that, and guys, everything will be in the show notes, but can you share what the gift is, Shannon?
Yes. So I have a couple gifts if I can. I have my Media Magic book. So that if you go to MediaMagicBook.com, this has templates on how to write the press release. This has some of the key questions with the power bio. This is a book that I talked about where I brought in, what we called sponsors at the time, partners to help fund it. And it's a workbook. People, you can get through it in just a few hours. But this is really designed to help you go out there and track free publicity. Not only that, but just learning the language of prosperity. Learning, I found people go, oh, I needed to change my business card or my website. There's some really key marketing tools in there. And then the last one is we have at the Business Acceleration Network 6 key pieces that we work with, communication, community, capital, and I've got a video series on our website that people can download and really dive in deeper on that signature blueprint that we work with.
I love it. And guys, Shannon's going to give us the link so that I'll put that in the show notes and by the way, the Media Magic book, brilliant, simple, use it, just do it. If any of this is resonating with you, I would go through the exercise of filling in that workbook. I think number one, you might have more assets than you think you have. That's number one. And number two, you'll be really clear, like, holy moly, I'm missing whatever it is. It'll become really clear to you. And then you could go and find whatever the resources are, hopefully Shannon, but you might know people in your world that can execute. So again, it just shines the light on those potential blind spots, but I think also shine the light on things you have that you might not think are valuable that you already have. So again, do the book, and thank you for that other link. I'll make sure I include it for everybody to watch the video series, because that really gives some good insight, but also gives a flavor of you and how just loving and caring you are. And I think that's important in our business world. I mean, we see what's happening around the world with wars and now these universities, all of the mayhem. It's kind of tragic how I think our world leads with anger instead of leading with love. And to me, that one little shift, if we could do business from love, my tagline, right, Shannon, is if you're not selling from love, care, and respect, please stop. You're doing it wrong, right? But it's true. So I think if we can lead with love like you do and I do and all the people in our community, the money comes exponentially, but we have to know where to ask the question. So those 2 gifts from Shannon, I think, will really help you zero in on what you need. So let me give you the website. It's businessaccelerationnetwork.com. And then if you have a question specifically for Shannon, please email her at info@shannonprocise.com. All of that will be in the show notes, and the 2 links to the free gift, the book and the I'm blanking, the book and the media, the video series, I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. Shan, anything else before we click out?
I just am so grateful, Connie, to know you and that you have really enlightened the sales process for people. I know in our community, what it's to convert people to sales and to move them into that where they enjoy it, where it's fun, where it's a pleasure, and we're celebrating is also one of our C's. It's like, I just am so grateful that you're sharing your message with the world and that you are in our community, giving us those great tools that you do. So thank you, Connie.
It's funny, people think sales is icky, but if you're selling from love, care, and respect, and you're really honoring the person in front of you, like, we have the best job in the world, as long as your product is good or your service is good, right? That you have the depth of knowledge, which most businesses, you open a business because you know what you're doing. It's just that sales piece that people struggle with. And it's silly because it's actually the easiest piece. I find the marketing is much harder than the sales. Again, my zone of genius. I get that, guys. But it's easier than we think. And just like all the things we talked about today, you make it easier than we think to get publicity, sponsors, capital. You make it easy, even though to me, these are foreign languages, right? It's the reality. Your zone of genius versus my zone of genius. That's why we're better together, for sure. Thank you, my friend, for coming on and sharing your time and just your brilliance with everyone. And I'm truly honored to have you in my circle of influence. You're one of my closest people, and I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much for all you do.
I know they're like, and God, they're gushing on each other. Hey man, have you met me? I love to gush. Thanks again, my friend. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are, on change in your life. And it could come from any direction, personal or professional. I truly hope my guests and I inspire you to take action. Notice the word action. You heard Shannon, you heard all this brilliant stuff that we talked about today. Information's a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, it's simply information. So here's your call to action. Download the 2 free gifts. That's a great start. With action comes reaction, and that's where the magic happens. So again, please use these resources. Go back and listen to and take notes as Shannon started outlining some things about the press kit, et cetera. And again, the media book has a lot in it. So the Magic Media Book, just download it, guys. Trust me, it will inspire you to take your business or your career to the next level. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Shannon. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I am truly honored to have you on this journey of change with me, and you inspire me every week to bring brilliant guests like Shannon to the table so that I can inspire you to take the action needed to create magic and love in your life. I love you all. I'll see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in.